Ethan adjusted the baby monitor on the nightstand and checked the screen one last time. Their newborn, Noah, lay quietly in his crib, bundled in a blanket, breathing steadily under the soft blue glow of the nursery's nightlight. Outside, the wind whispered through the pine trees that surrounded their house on the edge of town. It had been 2 weeks since they brought Noah home from the hospital. For Ethan and his wife Lena, parenthood was a strange blend of exhaustion and wonder. Most nights were sleepless, filled with diaper changes, feedings, and anxious checks on their son. But tonight, everything felt unusually calm. Lena was already asleep, curled up under the duvet, her chest rising and falling gently. Ethan dimmed the lights and lay back in bed, keeping one eye on the monitor screen. He wasn't sure if it was fatherly instinct or simple paranoia, but something in him refused to let his guard down. Just as his eyes began to close, a faint sound crackled through the monitor speaker. At first, he thought it was static. Then it came again. Not a baby's cry, not the creak of the crib, but a whisper. He sat up. The monitor screen still showed Noah sleeping peacefully, unmoving. But the whisper returned, louder, clearer. A man's voice, soft, deep, calm. "Are you awake, little one?" Ethan blinked, staring at the monitor. His heart began to race. He pressed the volume button, thinking maybe it was a glitch, maybe interference from another household device. But the voice continued. "They think they can protect you, but they can't. Not forever." Ethan threw the blanket aside and rushed to the nursery. The room was exactly as he had left it. Noah was still asleep, his tiny fists tucked close to his chest. The baby monitor's camera blinked steadily from the corner of the room. There was no one else there. He turned on the lights, checked the closet, under the crib, even opened the window to see if someone might have been outside. Nothing. Ethan stood in the middle of the room, his breath visible in the chilly air. The silence was almost deafening now, but the fear, it remained, clinging to him like static. He returned to the bedroom, where Lena stirred at the sight of his pale face. "What's wrong?" she murmured. Ethan hesitated. I think the monitor picked up something weird. A voice, a man." Lena sat up, alert. "A voice? What kind of voice?" He swallowed. "Like someone whispering to Noah." Lena's expression turned uneasy. Could it be interference? Maybe from another baby monitor nearby? Ethan nodded slowly, though he didn't believe it. "Maybe. I'll keep an ear on it." They didn't sleep much that night. And the next night, it happened again. The next night, Ethan set up his phone to record the audio feed from the baby monitor. He didn't tell Lena, not because he didn't trust her, but because he didn't want her to worry. Or worse, confirm his growing fear that something truly unnatural was happening. At 11:43 p.m., Noah was sound asleep again. The baby monitor blinked quietly beside the bed. Ethan stared at it until his eyes grew heavy. Then, like the night before, it began. Static at first. Then the voice. "You're growing so fast. Soon you'll understand who I am." Ethan sat upright in bed, heart pounding. He looked at the monitor screen. Noah asleep, alone. "Don't be afraid. I've always been here." This time, the voice was louder, clearer. "They won't hear me. Only you can." Ethan reached for his phone and stopped the recording. Then, slowly, He slid out of bed and walked back to the nursery. Every step felt heavier than the last. The room was still. Noah's chest rose and fell softly. The mobile above the crib turned lazily, casting faint shadows on the walls. Ethan glanced at the monitor camera, still functioning, still watching. He whispered under his breath, "Who the hell are you?" The silence replied. Then, on the phone in his hand, the audio playback began on its own. Ethan froze. The voice came through the speaker again, but this time, it said something new. "Daddy, don't you remember?" Ethan's blood ran cold. It wasn't just a man's voice anymore. It was distorted, familiar. He played it back again and again, and each time it sounded more like his own voice. No, that's impossible. He hadn't spoken. He hadn't recorded anything like that. It was a trick, some audio anomaly, a digital glitch. He deleted the file, but the phone refused. It blinked once, then the recording vanished on its own. Back in bed, Ethan tried to explain it all to Lena the next morning, his voice shaking. She listened, eyes wide, brows furrowed. "You think the voice was you?" "I don't know," he said. "It sounded like me, but not me. Like someone copying me or twisting my words." Lena stared at the baby monitor. "I think we should stay at my parents' house for a while." Ethan nodded, but deep down, he already knew the truth. You can't outrun something that lives inside your voice. That night, before they left, Lena packed up Noah's things while Ethan unplugged the baby monitor. The screen blinked one last time, and on it, for the briefest second, he saw himself standing over the crib. But he wasn't in the room. He was standing at the door, watching. They didn't leave that night. Not because they changed their minds, but because Noah spiked a sudden high fever around midnight. One minute he was fine. The next he was crying uncontrollably, his body burning up. Lena panicked. Ethan drove to the 24-hour pharmacy, fingers trembling on the steering wheel. They gave him baby Tylenol, rocked him for hours, and waited as the fever finally dropped. But that wasn't the part that kept Ethan awake. It was what Noah said during the fever. He was only 7 months old, too young to talk, too young to say anything coherent. But sometime around 2:13 a.m., as Lena held him and Ethan watched helplessly from the corner of the room, Noah suddenly stopped crying, turned his head slightly, and, in a low, unnatural whisper, said, "Why did you leave me in the cold?" Lena froze. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. They looked at each other as if silently asking, "Did you hear that too?" Noah had already slumped back into sleep. That night, Ethan couldn't help himself. He connected the baby monitor again, pointed the camera toward the crib, and synced the live feed to his laptop. He needed proof, or maybe he needed to prove to himself that he wasn't losing his mind. He set a screen recorder, turned the audio up, and waited. Minutes ticked by. Then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the screen shimmered slightly, like static underwater. Ethan leaned closer. On the monitor, the crib was still. Noah was asleep. But a shadow began to form just outside the frame, slowly bleeding into the edge of the picture. A tall figure, slender, still. The audio hissed. Then, "I waited for you. You never came." The voice was clearer now, sharper, familiar. Ethan's heart skipped. That voice, again, it sounded like him, but tired, older, as if drawn from a memory he didn't know he had. Then, without warning, the monitor blinked off. The laptop screen turned black. Just 3 words remained, in red, center screen. "Do you remember?" Ethan stood up so fast his chair fell backward. He yanked the power cord. The monitor shut down completely. He ran to Noah's room, still sleeping, alone. The room was colder than before, noticeably colder. He checked the windows, locked, vents shut. Lena met him at the doorway, startled by the noise. "Ethan, what happened?" I think someone's trying to tell me something." "Who?" He didn't answer, because he wasn't sure anymore if it was someone else, or if it was a part of himself he had long forgotten. Ethan didn't sleep the rest of the night. He sat at the kitchen table, watching the baby monitor he had unplugged, now just a black, glossy screen. But his reflection in it didn't look right. His face appeared older somehow, thinner, with deep shadows under his eyes that weren't there yesterday. He told himself it was just the stress. By morning, he had made a decision. He needed answers, real ones. So he drove. Not to the police, not to a tech expert. He drove to the house where he grew up. It had been years since he'd been back. After his parents died in a fire, he rarely spoke of his childhood, even to Lena. The house had been abandoned ever since. Boarded up, the grass overgrown, the mailbox rusted shut. But Ethan still had the key. Inside, the air was stale and cold. Dust blanketed every surface, but the hallway was just as he remembered. Photos lined the wall. One caught his eye. A picture of him, maybe 5 years old, standing next to a crib. He stared at it. There was another child in the crib. A baby. His baby brother? He didn't remember having a sibling. He took the photo off the wall and studied it, heart racing. There, in the background, stood a tall man, grainy, unclear, but definitely there. His father? Or Ethan stumbled back, memories crashing down like broken glass. He remembered now. His parents had adopted a baby when he was 5, a boy named Michael. But there had been problems. Michael cried constantly. Strange things happened when he was around. Cold spots in the house, whispers in the dark. One night, Ethan had snuck into the nursery with a flashlight. He'd wanted to scare him, just a stupid kid. But something happened, something terrible. The next morning, Michael was gone. His parents never spoke of it again. They told him he'd imagined the whole thing, that Michael had never existed, that he was an only child. And Ethan believed them, or tried to. But now, looking at the photo, the truth screamed louder than any voice from the monitor. Michael had been real, and he had died in that house. Because of Ethan. He didn't remember how. He didn't want to. But the guilt, it was surfacing now, piece by horrifying piece. The voice in the monitor wasn't just some ghost. It was Michael, reaching out, asking why he had been left. And Ethan had no answer. Ethan drove home with shaking hands. The photo sat on the passenger seat, staring up at him like a window into a past he had buried so deep it had rotted. Michael was real. The guilt pressed against his chest with every breath. He couldn't stop replaying that night, the way the crib had tilted, the flashlight dropped, the scream. He slammed the brakes. For a split second, he thought he saw a child standing in the middle of the road. But when he stepped out, there was nothing, only fog. When he got home, Lena was in the nursery, rocking Lily in her arms. Her eyes were red. "He spoke again," she whispered. Same voice. Said, "He remembers now." Ethan nearly dropped the photo frame. That night, after Lena fell asleep, he went into the nursery alone. The baby monitor was on again. He hadn't plugged it in. Its green light blinked slowly, like a heartbeat. He sat beside the crib, watching Lily sleep. "I know who you are now," he said softly. "I remember everything." For a long time, there was only silence. Then, the static shifted. A whisper, low and sharp. "Why did you let me die?" Ethan's voice cracked. "I didn't mean to. I was just a kid. I didn't know." Another whisper. "You laughed." Tears streamed down Ethan's face. "I was scared. I didn't know what would happen. I've lived with that night my entire life. I see it in my dreams. I hear your cries when everything is quiet." The baby monitor hissed. Then the voice came again, softer this time. "She's not yours." Ethan froze. "What?" he whispered. "She's mine now. You took my life, I take hers." "No, no!" Ethan lunged forward and ripped the baby monitor from the wall. Lily stirred in her sleep, then whimpered. Her tiny hands clenched into fists. And then her eyes opened. But they weren't Lily's eyes. They were a cold, glassy gray. Ethan stumbled back. "No, please, don't do this. Take me instead." The child in the crib tilted her head. And then, in that same voice, Michael's voice, she said, "You already died that night. You just don't know it yet." The room went dark. When Lena rushed in moments later, the crib was empty. No Ethan, no Lily. Only the unplugged baby monitor, still blinking. And from its speaker came a single, final whisper. "Now we're even."